Despite its rich array of energy resources, the Eastern Africa-Southern Africa-Indian Ocean region faces serious energy challenges. Around 630 million people lack reliable access to energy, and 790 million people still rely on solid biomass for basic energy needs. By raising business costs, these major setbacks hinder the competitiveness of the region.
There are really a lot of challenges. One of the main challenges is energy poverty. And also we are dependent on biomass resources, and really there is also excess system loss in modern energy sources. That is inefficient generation, transmission and distribution of energy. These are the major challenges, and the other one is the institutional challenges. That is a very low institutional capacity, human capacity, and also technological capacity. These are really very, very big challenges in Ethiopia.
On the energy level, our main source of energy is KPLC here in Kenya. We rely most of it on it. We don't have a backup plan for this business. So most of the time we rely on KPLC as a source of our energy. So most of the time we face some challenges, like we may face blackout without a notice, and that one will slow our production. As you see, our machine most of the time, if without power, we are not running. So it render the services, no services are being rendered now from there. So that's the main challenge. Another challenge is sometimes when it's raining, like the rain season, we may experience also blackouts. And another challenge we are facing is the tariffs. The tariffs are very high. Sometimes you may get your bill, you compare with your production, you find that you are making loss, or you cannot meet the production, or you cannot be able to pay the bill and pay the employees.
While generation capacity has significantly increased over the recent years, with major power generation projects coming on stream within the region, this nascent market is still in early stages. Challenges still remain regarding universal energy access and availability of infrastructure to tap into renewable resource. Regional economic communities have consistently assisted their member states to tackle these problems through various energy-focused programs. The project on enhancement of a sustainable regional energy market in Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, Indian Ocean region, ESREM, funded by the European Union with a €7 million budget, is one such game-changing project seeking to boost regional and cross-border energy trade within the coming years.
The ESREM project is about facilitating development of regional frameworks that can be adopted by individual countries.
As regulators, we came together to harmonize our policies, harmonize our regulations, and also to look at ways in which we could harmonize the legal frameworks.
Regional economic communities and other specialized institutions like the Eastern African Power Pool, the Southern African Power Pool, they have come together, so that they work together in terms of developing the regulations and policies that are needed to develop the energy sector at a regional level. And secondly, the ESREM project has also done a lot in terms of facilitating capacity building for all the stakeholders in the region. And thirdly, the project has also managed to develop a harmonized framework for the regulation of the energy sector in the region, which is very key for the development of the sector.
With the support of the EU via the 11th EDF, ESREM is tailored to address the energy needs of the EASAIO region by promoting regional cooperation in energy development, trade and capacity building.
Essentially, what this will enable us to do is to have cooperative work in terms of energy trade, for instance. If you're going to trade energy, you need to have rules and regulations that enables you to harmonize the trade.
Steered by COMESA in partnership with EAC, IGAD, IOC and SADC, ESREM targets a regional harmonization of energy policy and regulatory frameworks while developing the necessary frameworks to promote investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency.
So if you look at like now, if you are going to export power from Zambia to Ethiopia, or you are going to export from Ethiopia to Zambia, you have to go into negotiations, between the two countries. So basically, and one of the things we are going to be negotiating about is the methodology for calculating the tariff. Who is going to pay for the transmission between Kenya and all those kind of things. But what these frameworks are trying to do is actually to have methods in place whereby all the countries involved in a particular trade, they know that there is an existing method, so it makes it easier, for everyone involved to actually, do the trades.
ESREM aims to create a conducive regulatory environment within the ESA-IO region to enhance a sustainable regional energy market and stimulate regional power trade. Ethiopia, Kenya, and Zambia count among its beneficiaries.
I trust that bilateral agreements will dwindle down, because power pools takes much of the activities of the bilateral agreements. And the power pools create much of an opportunity for cross-border countries. It could be a spot market or regular market arrangement.
To achieve its mission, ESREM has worked towards key achievements. The establishment of a regulatory oversight framework for the ESA-IO region. Development of the framework and roadmap for the transformation of the Regional Energy Regulators Association of Southern Africa into a substantive regional regulatory authority for Southern Africa. The Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Strategy and Action Plan. The capacitation of regional regulatory institutions and power pools.
For you to have a good investment in the sector, to attract investment, you need a policy and regulatory environment which is conducive. So you find that if the policies and regulations are not properly done, that's a barrier for investment.
Just by way of background, the SADC Energy Ministers in 2010 formally adopted the RERA cross-border power trading guidelines. RERA will enable regulation on the regional energy markets by the harmonized legal and regulatory framework, which will ensure that countries are able to freely trade using the same reference points, as opposed to each country having its own rules, policies, and guidelines. And then also there'll be transparent and predictable requirements for transboundary projects, which will ensure increased investment in the sector and will also enhance the market.
Stepping stones for that would be to ensure that we have a harmonized way of doing cross-border trade for energy, ensuring that the rules governing the market are rules that would incentivize investors to come in, and also to encourage consumers to use the energy efficiently. And for this reason, even governments would need to be encouraged to put in place policies that would encourage energy efficiency and exploitation, keeping in mind, of course, issues such as sustainability, because as COMESA, we are also part of the planet, and we have to think in terms of ensuring that the planet remains sustainable.
The framework for regulatory oversight is a major milestone and was achieved through consultation with strategic regional energy sector stakeholders, including ministries in charge of energy issues, regional economic communities, as well as national and regional regulatory institutions within the region. It will ensure harmonized, efficient, and gender-sensitive regulation across the ESA-IO market.
The framework for regulatory oversight of the regional energy market in Eastern Africa, Southern Africa and Indian Ocean, initiated under ESREM, would be of great significance and value in the sense that it will provide possibilities of harmonized and regulated cross-border power trade.
Once you have standards that are up to international level, regulations up to international level, and if the member countries adopt those regulations, then it makes it more attractive for investors to come.
Also, this framework reveals how to incentivize investment in regional transmission and generation infrastructure facilities through development of appropriate pricing methodology that promote competition and market integration. Also, this framework reveals how to promote open access to the regional transmission network through development of harmonized interconnections code and operations regimes.
It has the following objectives: to clarify the roles of regional energy institutions and identify required regulatory instruments and market monitoring and surveillance programs for the regional energy market, to incentivize investments in regional transmission and generation infrastructure through development of appropriate pricing methodologies that promote competition and market integration, and to promote open access to the regional transmission network through development of harmonized interconnections codes and operations regimes.
From the Southern African perspective, we have benefited and we continue to benefit from the programs under ESREM. I would mention specifically two, which one is the capacity building programs. We have participated in various exchange programs to other markets internationally to go and benchmark and to go and learn and be able to come back into the regions and adapt and implement what we have learned. So that is the first one. Secondly, we benefit and we continue to benefit from their studies that they carry out under the ESREM project. To mention just one of them, it is around the roadmap and the framework for developing a regulatory authority, a regional regulatory authority in the SADC region, and that is work that is currently ongoing. The implementation of the outcomes of their studies are currently ongoing.
The overall idea is that once you make the environment conducive, for example, if investors who are coming in the country, they know exactly what to expect, that the environment is stable in terms of the policies, the regulation, they are not going to change overnight. They know that the framework for calculation of tariffs in the energy sector is there, it's clear and it's transparent. And then they also know that once they come into the sector, they have the opportunity to export power, to another country, for example. That is what attracts the private sector to come.
Another stepping stone is the framework and roadmap for the transformation of RERA from an association with recommendatory authority into a SADC Regional Energy Regulatory Authority, SRERA, with substantive powers. This roadmap establishes SRERA as a major regulator within SADC to facilitate public and private sector investment in the regional energy sector. SRERA is expected to grow organically and develop its regulatory instruments following the needs of the growing market.
The transformation of RERA to SRERA is an important evolution in regulating the energy market because firstly, RERA as an association does not have the mandate to provide regulatory oversight over the regional energy market. So with SRERA coming on board, there will be a clear legal mandate over transboundary projects and cross-border trading. For example, we have cross-border or bilateral projects. That will take a while because each country, I think, has their own rules, regulations, the sovereignty. You have, for example, the Patoka Gorge project between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Both countries have their own rules, regulatory framework, and it will take a while before I think both governments agree. But when you have this regional authority that has the mandate over the region, then you're able to benefit from those rules, regulations, policies, and procedures. So by the transformation, there is a recognition for a regulator that will be able to preside over cross-border trade of energy and approval of transboundary projects. It also recognizes the need for harmonization of legal and regulatory frameworks in order to enhance energy markets.
SRERA will provide investor confidence in the energy market and spur increased investment in the interconnection, generation, and auxiliary infrastructure.
To be precise, it will be by bringing predictability and transparency to the regional energy markets, also the harmonization of legal and regulatory frameworks, and a clear mandate over transboundary projects and power trading.
This will in turn increase regional trade and provide necessary structures for the interconnection of the SAPP market with other regional markets such as the EAPP and NAPP.
Ethiopia will also the major player in the power trade in the region and had developed its standards and the guidelines to according to the requirements of the regions. And the guidelines have been developed based on the East African Power Pool requirements and also the Southern African Power Pool guidelines are under consideration in the ESREM project
We've already seen, some of the frameworks that have been developed, such as the Renewable Energy Efficiency Strategy, and we've also seen the harmonized framework for the regulation of the regional electricity sector. And there are other, frameworks that the project has developed. So first of all, it's incumbent upon each of the individual countries to actually take those frameworks and adopt them for their own use at national level. That's one. Then number two is that the ESREM project has promoted or facilitated a lot of capacity building, and that capacity building is specifically meant to raise the capacity of the member countries to understand the frameworks that are being developed, as well as to adopt those frameworks for their own use.
You have seen the Kenya Power complaining a lot of time. So I think going for things like solar energy or getting power from neighboring country or getting some expertise from outside, people that can make the power to come down, the energy to come down, so that we can be able to access it very easily. We can able to run our operation without interruption.
ESREM's third result, the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Strategy and Action Plan, or RESAP for the EASA-IO region, addresses energy, gender, climate change, cross-sectoral and communication issues.
This will ease the burden of women and marginalized group society in availing productive use electricity supply. The productive use electricity supply mean like enabling the women and the marginal group society to have an access for small-scale irrigation.
We also want our women to have access to clean energy. As you know, the dependence on wood fuel and charcoal has negative bearing on the environment, which actually causes other problems, because the more environmental degradation there is, the more negative effects. The women have to walk further to look for firewood, but even more, we know that the water sources are also affected. So we do hope that through the ESREM project, the links that are there in studies that have been done between access to modern energy and increased economic activity will manifest. So we hope to see women engaging in more entrepreneurial activities.
Elaborated through comprehensive report reviews, field visits, and stakeholder consultative workshops across SADC, EAC, and IOC member states, RESAP is a synthesized regional framework that will guide EASA-IO members to develop or enhance their own renewable energy and energy efficiency strategies and action plans.
We have what we call a framework consultant within the project, and one of the objectives of that framework consultant is actually to help countries domesticate the frameworks that are being developed at regional level. So it means that member countries have the liberty to actually approach the ESREM project and ask them for specific assistance to help them domesticate all the frameworks, the policies, the regulations that have been developed.
RESAP will act as a catalyst, boosting renewable energy and energy efficiency ventures throughout the EASA-IO region through harmonized structures for cross-border trade.
We do have a vast potential of renewables. We do have a huge potential of hydro, huge potential of geothermal, wind and solar, and of course biomass. So if we are able to develop this potential and actively participate in the regional market, we can be highly benefited from this initiative and also play a central role in integrating the regional electricity infrastructure.
In sync with the work undertaken across mainland Africa, ocean states of the IO region are also focusing their efforts towards better regional regulatory oversight. The IOC has been a key partner in activities carried out under ESREM and RESAP. With the approach of Horizon 2030 and a global momentum towards renewable energy, the EASA-IO region, with the support of the EU, has initiated game-changing stepping stones through ESREM. ESREM is boosting future regional energy trade and enabling innovations to address the region's energy challenges.
There's very many opportunities. The energy resource base in Africa is fairly large. The problem is that it has not been exploited. And for it to be exploited, we need to have investments. So opportunities are there but we need to have rules and regulations in place that will facilitate investors who want to invest in this. Good examples would be like in hydro. There is the Inga in the Congo, which I think has been talked about for a very long time, but the investments have not been flowing into this region. So if there's a way that investments can be facilitated to flow here, we'd be able to exploit the hydro potential there. If you look at some of the latest developments in solar technology, solar PV is a disruptive technology that is taking root in many countries now. And what we need is to have rules in place, we need to have laws in place, and policies, appropriate policies that would enable investors to come in to help us exploit these energy resources, which would therefore improve access to energy for the people of the region.
The major solution should be just, we have to focus on the other renewable energy sources, diversification of energy sources such as wind, which is a very big 100 gigawatts potential. And also we have very good solar potential in Ethiopia. Also there is also geothermal potential. So we have to focus on this energy mixing. This not only ensures sustainability of power supply, we have to strengthen the institutional capacity too. And also the transmission distribution networks should be also upgraded.
By creating the right environment for cross-border power trade and opportunities for IPPs, the outcomes of ESREM will be pivotal to address the energy needs of a growing African continent through local, national, and regional solutions. Through the provisions of ESREM, limitations at national level can be overcome through cross-border and international partnerships.
The region has a number of potential investments in projects across borders. I did mention the Batoka hydropower project between Zambia and Zimbabwe, but we also have the Zizawona, which is the acronym encompasses Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, and Namibia, a transmission project, just to name a few. But these projects have taken long to be realized because of the uncertainties in the current regulatory framework in different countries. So by regulating through a regional regulator, these projects will promote cross-border investments and also promote competitiveness because they now focus on the bigger regional markets and individual country markets. So even if Zambia, Zimbabwe, for example, is seen to be risky, because we're now looking at the region, it will be more attractive as an investment.
As the world moves away from carbon-based energy fuels, ESREM's objectives and actions are a leap into the future of the EASAIO energy sector. The foundations laid by ESREM are dedicated to attract the necessary investment through which solutions, including disruptive innovations, can emerge. In the spirit of regional cooperation and in the direction of renewable energy.